I do like the digital display. That's really nice. And then you have all the different modes you can set, and you can go trip A, trip B. Different mode. Jesus Christ. Okay, pal. Dude, I don't think this guy has anything better to do here. Like, yeah, no shit. God, that was just ridiculous. So yeah, that guy actually came out to us earlier, guys, and he had like cornered us at the gas station and was asking me a whole bunch of questions about like the bikes and stuff. I was like, alright, some older guy. I mean, I have no problem answering questions, but I don't know, he was just being kind of weird about it, and now he's like following us, which is kind of odd. Alright, hey everybody, and thank you all so much for joining me today. So today I'm going to be reviewing a bike that you've seen a few times on my channel for my moto vlogs. Most of the time it hasn't been running, but it is finally running and fixed. Has a new stator, new rectifier, new plugs. It's running beautifully. This is the 2008 Aprilia Tuono R, and it is a V-twin 1000cc bike. Absolute torque monster. Has the MIV Invent exhaust on it. Some nice rear sets. Handlebar mirrors and such. It also has the headlight from an Aprilia Shiver. So, and it is missing a couple of the fairings. So it doesn't look like the typical Tuono, you know, a factory Tuono, because it is missing the belly pan and the headlight assembly. But all in all, still the same bike. So my friend's actually visiting from Massachusetts. He's going to be riding my 848, and we're just going to be heading back up 151, and we're down here in beautiful Virginia. Without further ado, let's get the show on the road. So I've already been riding this bike for about an hour and a half now. Alright, let's start this bad boy up. So because I've already ridden this bike for a couple hours, I already have a good idea of how it rides, how it handles, and so on. But let me tell you, this is a very fun, very torquey bike. It sounds pretty good. The MIV exhaust does get a little bit droney at times, but other than that, it sounds pretty good. It's not terrible. It wouldn't be my first choice for aftermarket exhaust. So the Aprilia Tuono, it's more of an upright bike, so it's fairly comfortable, and it's nice in these bends actually. You can really throw the weight around on this bike. It's not what people usually perceive for an upright bike. They usually think that they're kind of, you know, lumpy and awkward, but I mean, this thing has no issues going through these bends. Heck of a lot of fun, that's for sure. It's fairly comfortable. My only complaint is that actually my butt does get kind of sore after this 2-hour ride. You know, nothing else is sore. I'm not experiencing any fatigue in my wrists or arms or anything else, but definitely my butt's a little bit sore, and I'm sure that can be one, I'm sure that's something you get used to, and two, you know, obviously you can buy an aftermarket seat for it to fix that issue as well. This bike is so light and nimble in these bends. It is a heck of a lot of fun, and I feel extremely comfortable doing it too. So some of the pros on this bike, I do like the rear sets a lot. After talking to my buddy Ian, because I'm looking at getting rear sets for my Ducati, and after talking to him, he's like, dude, like once you ride the bike, you'll understand what it's all about. And I definitely know what he means. It's definitely a lot more comfortable, and you definitely feel, you know, better foot control, I guess you could say. Like, you're feeling more confident. The only thing I will say is that, like the MV Agusta F4 that I reviewed, my thigh is like smacking the side of the tank right now. So the The tank isn't as an aggressive like edge as the MV. However, it does have, you know, somewhat of that, you know, Italian styling where it's the flared out gas tank. And the issue is when I'm shifting and such, I have to actually bring my leg out to the side like this, just like the MV Agusta. So I'm sure if I adjusted the rear sets just a little bit, I would be better off. However, that as of right now, it hugs me, but I feel like if I was like maybe an inch shorter, I'd be golden. I'm about 6 feet tall with my boots, with my riding boots on, and I have no problem putting both feet flat on this bike. And like I said, it's very comfortable, very light, and very fast. Yeah, so one of the things I'm not a huge fan of on this bike is the styling, in all honesty. Don't get me wrong, it sounds great and it's fast. However, looks-wise, it's really not an appealing bike for my taste. You know, I'm not a huge like Street Fighter guy, and that's kind of what this bike is, more or less what it looks like. My friend is looking to do a different headlight setup on it from a different Aprilia that'll give it a little bit of fairing and kind of tie up the front end a little more, make it look a little bit cleaner, which will be nice. And he's looking to, you know, do this, put the belly pan back on it, get some nice stickers, factory stickers, and throw that back on it. Oh yeah, it's nice and smooth. So I have yet to go balls to the wall with this bike as far as acceleration. I have not gotten it up to redline just because it is such a torque monster, and I've watched my friend plenty of times on it. I mean, he wheelies it all day long, and so I just started practicing my wheelies, and I'm not looking to die, especially on someone else's bike. So unfortunately, the Aprilia Tuono, they do have kind of a bad rep as far as reliability and everything else, and my friend has had quite a bit of issues with it, but they were not anything like too major. It just was like a domino effect of one after the other after the other. You know, first the stator went bad, then he had an issue with like the fuel pump and the lines to it, then he had an issue with the rectifier, and then he had an issue with one or two other things. I don't even remember. I mean, the bike was down for about 2 months, and it was really frustrating for him especially, but me, where, you know, I'm asking him always to come out and ride, but he can't because his bike's broken. So as far as maintenance and working on these though, because it is, you know, almost like a naked bike, you don't have the struggle of, you know, removing, you know, 30 plus bolts to get a fairing off, where, you know, it's like what you have on my 848, where this is relatively easy. I do really like these bar end mirrors though. They are really great. I do like them more than the bar end mirror on my 848, only because that they're not so flexible, so they actually stay in place relatively well. They do kind of vibrate out of place, but I'm sure that could be fixed with some easy adjustment and just tighten it up a little bit. He has the shorty levers on it as well, which those are great. I have those on my 848 as well. I absolutely love them. I don't know how I feel about the cluster though. The cluster is definitely dated. I mean, when you look at it, it's a 2008, but the one thing that's kind of bothering me, and I can't tell if it's just the whole cluster is shaking or if it's the needle, but every time I hit a bump, it looks like the needle looks like waggling a bit, and it's just kind of like, that's bothersome. So as far as braking on this bike, it's really solid. It has the Brembo brakes in the front and the rear, dual calipers in the front, single in the rear, very similar to my Ducati. It does have the Brembo reservoirs too. God, this guy's driving like a maniac. This car is chasing him. He's having none of it. Oh yeah, so the brakes and the handling I absolutely love on this bike, and not to mention it's got some nice tires on it. It's got the Michelin Pilot Powers. They're not the 2CTs like what I have, but they're definitely sticky. They definitely do the job. Suspension-wise, it's very comfortable. Hitting a lot of the the little bumps and dips in the road, you definitely feel it. You're connected with the road, but you're not like hating. You're not hating your life with them, which is really nice. Alright, so we'll do I think this is first gear. Alright, here we go. Woo! So this thing pulls like a freaking freight train. Just got torque for days on this bike, and it's so much fun. It makes you so giddy. The only other drawback though is like on the highway when you're doing 65 plus is you do have the full brunt force of the wind. Because it is an upright bike, you are kind of constantly fighting the wind, which can be a little bit annoying, but it's, whatever, you get used to it. So another thing I'm not a huge fan of on this bike is that it is a gas guzzler. Let me tell you, it only gets about high 30s maybe mpg. So if you are looking for a fuel economy bike, go buy yourself a 250. This is not the bike for you. But if you're looking to have some real serious fun, this bike, let me tell you, once you work out the kinks on it, is a blast to drive. Absolute blast. Jesus! So another nice thing about this bike is that unlike my Ducati, you're not getting a whole lot of heat soak that's coming through the seat, which is real nice. But I am going to say the one drawback of having the upright bike is that the majority of your weight is going straight down your spine, right to your butt. And the problem is that my butt's getting pretty sore just riding these roads. I think with a simple seat upgrade, that could be probably fixed a little bit, but you're still, I don't know. I feel like it's just part of owning a upright bike, is that, you're going to have all that weight just, straight down onto your butt. After riding this thing for about 2.5 hours, I'm still fairly comfortable, but it's just, the only thing that's fatiguing is my rear end. I do like the handlebar setup on this though. I'm not sure if it's aftermarket or if it's factory, but these grips are really nice. Pretty sure those are aftermarket. They look it, considering the age and the mileage on the bike. Overall, it's a pretty comfortable bike, and I really like it a lot. I think I'd like it a little bit better if it had, the rest of the fairings on it and such. But other than that, it's a heck of a lot of fun. It handles great, it rides great, it's got good power, and it sounds great as well. It's really just a pretty well put together bike. Another point for the Italians on their bike design. As far as if you're looking at getting this bike as a first bike, I guess I would say probably not the best idea, just given the amount of power and torque that this bike possesses. However, I mean, for second, third, or fourth bike, I wouldn't totally knock it out of that category for a second bike. But just keep in mind, obviously, the thing's got a ton of power, and if you're unlucky and you get one that has a few issues, you're going to spend more time probably fixing it than riding it. But obviously, that's not always the case with these. As far as price range for these bikes, I know my friend bought this one relatively cheap. I think it was about $2,500, but he bought it and it wasn't running when he did purchase it, so that's why the price was so cheap. However, he said if he were to add the fairings to it and such, this bike would probably fetch anywhere from $4,500 to $7,000 at most. But that's kind of where the market's sitting at these right now. It's not a very common bike, that's for sure. This is I've only seen one other Tuono in my life, so they're not super common bikes. That being said, obviously finding parts for them and such can be a bit of a pain, but it's not impossible to do. And there is a bit of an aftermarket following for these bikes, but it's nothing major, just because, like I said, they weren't extremely popular. And the nice thing about the V-twin, so I was in 6th gear right there, and I was hovering around 4,000 RPMs maybe. Just roll on the throttle and the torque is instantly there on these bikes, and that's what's so great about the V-twin. That's what I absolutely love about my Ducati. That's what I love about the V-twins in general, is that they're just torque, torque, torque. And it doesn't really matter what rev range you're sitting at or what gear. I mean, obviously a lower gear and a higher rev range is going to be, you know, more power, but the power is almost always there, which is really nice when you're riding a V-twin. And this bike is just so nimble and so sharp, and I mean, I can just throw it back and forth like this all day long, and it is so comfortable. And that's what I've really found with a lot of the upright bikes is there's been one or two that have been kind of awkward, like the Multistrada I felt kind of weird on. That one was really high, but I mean, I've ridden with a guy that has a Multistrada 1200, and he throws that thing around like it's nothing. But these upright bikes, man, they're nothing to joke around about. You know, people kind of look at them going, oh, you know, it's kind of dumb. Like, you're sitting upright, like you can't make it through a bend as fast as I can. It's like, might want to think again, guys. These bikes are no joke. You get somebody that knows how to ride them, and they have zero issue keeping up. Especially on something like this, where you're 1000cc V-twin, no problem whatsoever. So another nice thing about this bike is the gear shifting is nice and smooth, and when you're in like first gear and you're kind of, you know, doing that creeping in like traffic or, you know, through a parking lot or whatnot, you're not getting the all that aggressive jolts that you would that some bikes have. Unfortunately, my Ducati kind of has that, and you got to feather the clutch. This one, however, has no problem doing, you know, the lower speeds in first gear and such. Another one of the things I don't really care about for this bike is the location of the exhaust. It really prevents you from being able to slide your feet back on the foot pegs. It's literally, hold on, let me get to a straight so you can see. It's literally, my heel is almost touching the exhaust, and it does make it, it's definitely cramped down where your feet are with the exhaust and the pegs, and then you have the gas tank jutting out. So everything from like the waist down is kind of like cramped in there. Like I said, I'm sure it's just one of those things where if I was a little bit shorter, it would be better, or if I adjusted the rear sets for my personal preference. But yeah, that exhaust kind of sitting right there on your heels is a little bit annoying, and I'm trying not to rest my foot against it because obviously I don't want to melt my shoe. But I know that's an issue that the owner of this has, that he used to have at least. It was, his shoes were literally melting right on the exhaust because he'd end up resting right against it. So all in all, guys, this is an absolutely phenomenal bike. It's a heck of a lot of fun to ride. I really want to thank Ian for letting me take out his bike today and borrow it while he was busy at work. Thank you all so much for watching this review. I hope you found it helpful. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to drop them below. You can also message me on my Instagram. Also, feel free to check out some of my other bike reviews as well as my motovlog playlist as well. I do have some videos of just riding my 848 on there. So, hey, thank you all again, guys, and as always, ride safe.